President Trump took a jab at his opponent today while announcing a peace deal.
The president announced Israel and Sudan have normalized relations. The president talked to Israel's prime minister from the Oval Office, and he asked Benjamin Netanyahu if, quote, Sleepy Joe could have made such a deal. While Democratic nominee Joe Biden continues to hammer the president's handling of the coronavirus. And the matter, as expected, came up during the debate last night. Here's our political specialist, Sean Boyd.
Unlike the first debate, this one was less combative and more substantive. It is the first debate where candidates' mics were muted while their opponent was talking, and it helped keep the debate focused on issues and not interruptions. But did it help those few undecided voters make up their minds? Let's ask our analysts. Republican Dick Bottoms, Democrat Mike Dino. Hi, guys. So let me just start generally. Dick, takeaways from this.
Well, first of all, I wish the Donald Trump of last night had shown up at the first debate. His demeanor was much better, and it made him a better debater. Now, I don't think it was a clear victory for Trump. I think it was a narrow victory, but I do think there were a couple of important issues that came out of the debate that will help Trump in some states he needs to win this election in the Electoral College, and that being fracking. I thought the vice president handled it very poorly, and that's going to move numbers in Pennsylvania and Ohio. Frankly, here in Colorado, I think there are 200,000 people who live in Colorado who make their living off the oil and gas industry. So I think that'll help here, too.
Mike, your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I agree with Dick in that I think the debate and the points scored by each candidate really was focused on those swing states, the 8 to 12 that are left, and particularly Florida being the key. And I think Biden's message of unity, which resonates well with suburban women, came through, wanting to be the American president, and also judging this election on character, were things that he needs to move his voters that are, strong with him. And certainly where he touched on the coronavirus and the blame he's placed on the president works well with those over 65 that have moved away from the president. So I think in the swing states, as Dick pointed out, each candidate probably scored some good points. And that's really where it counts, because the race has been over in Colorado for some time now on the presidential level.
You know, it's hard to imagine what undecided voters are waiting to hear to make up their minds on this. But you both have touched on a couple answers here that may have swayed some. So, Mike, when Biden says, he's not ruling out banning fracking, did that hurt him significantly, do you think?
No, not significantly, just because it's not an issue that's high on people's agenda. I mean, the virus, the economy are the top ones. And certainly there are younger voters that have mixed feelings about the oil and gas industry, sometimes leaning more to renewable and worried about climate change. And so I think he may have scored some points there with some of the younger voters that'll put him over the top in some of these states.
Dick, Trump continues to downplay coronavirus. You're saying last night we're turning the corner on this, we're learning to live with this. How much difference do you think that makes in this race?
Well, Trump continues to struggle with the coronavirus issue. I think he's done a much better job than he's given credit for. But one place on corona, I do think he scored some points. Biden essentially has acknowledged he would shut the economy down again. I think there are a lot of people who are getting very nervous about how long this is taking and how governors across the country, especially in like New York and California and other states, continue to just lock things down. And that's having societal impacts and suicide and other things. And I got to tell you, I think that is kind of a secret issue or a low-key issue that might play itself out more than we think.
All right, always interesting insight. Thanks, guys. And for more Dick and Mike, head to CBSDenver.com.